So we are in a perilous moment right now as we push to make our elections more open, more accessible, and more inclusive. And the Republicans, shocker, do not want this. Their survival is all about holding down voting by any means necessary. And in the debate over who should vote, they have the upper hand. If they win restrictions on voting, they win. And if they lose in their efforts to restrict voting, they can still win by using the debate to destroy faith in elections. That is their cynical game right now. And we must not blink, but we must also not be naive. There are two big issues on the table right now. Who is eligible to vote? And then assuring that everyone who is eligible actually is able to vote. We've come a long way in making most Americans eligible to vote, even if you don't own property, are not white, and aren't, well, a man. But on assuring that everyone actually can vote, the gap between who is eligible to vote in this country and who is actually able to vote is one of the greatest scars on our democracy with a lowercase d. The gap undermines the legitimacy of our elected governments, yet fixing it gives the opponents of democracy an opening to, yes, undermine the legitimacy of our elected governments. And that happens on both sides of the aisle. Incumbents want to protect themselves, but Republicans want to hold power when they know that the country looks very different than the way that they hold that power. So we need to proceed with great resolve, not just to win, but to explain why we should win. Clarity is essential, since the opponents of voting rights win just by creating chaos and confusion. For example, there are a number of ways we should continue to expand eligibility, like assuring that the formerly incarcerated have their rights restored. But our biggest challenge, and the one that Democrats have correctly focused on, is removing the obstacle course that makes it hard for eligible voters to actually vote. This is where Republicans are at their cynical worst. They have created a series of myths and voter fraud, and then use those myths to create obstacles to vote. ID rules, restrictions on length of voting and location of voting places, resistance to mail balloting, as we know from last year. This did not begin with the Donald Trump debacle of 2020 or the attack on the Capitol, and it clearly has not ended. Republicans are pushing in almost every single state right now to restrict access to voting. Voting has always primarily been a state responsibility, and in several places last year, Republicans had the courage to do their jobs and protect the proper counting of ballots. Republicans that they are trying to undo, these are the same Republicans that are trying to undo years of effort to professionalize the administration of elections. Shame, right? Shame, shame, shame. So I can't believe that I am quoting Chuck Schumer.
Today, now, in the 21st century, there is a concerted nationwide effort to limit the right of American citizens to vote and to truly have a voice in their own government. In the wake of the November elections, one of the safest in recent history, Republican-led state legislatures have seized on the former president's big lie that the election was stolen and introduced more than 250 bills in 43 states aimed at tightening voting rules under the guise of election integrity. Instead of doing what you should be doing when you lose an election in a democracy, attempting to win over those voters in the next election, Republicans instead are trying to disenfranchise those voters. Shame on them.
Shame on them. That was yesterday at a Senate hearing on a vital bill to protect the essential right to vote. While the Republicans are fighting state by state to restrict voting and retain their power over ballot counting, the House has passed legislation to create nationwide standards for voter access, like a simple universal registration. That is the bill that Senator Schumer was arguing for in that clip, as it is taken up by the Senate. The Republicans denounced this as federalizing a state responsibility. That is an exaggeration, but there is a kernel of truth here, and it is all on them. They have spent years and years, decades, trying to suppress voting and undermining the legitimacy of elections. It's racist, as we know. It's gendered. It's ageist. The damage that they have done is incalculable. The chickens came home to roost on January 6th. And if Republicans don't want uniform federal standards for voting, then they should back off their state-by-state campaign to suppress voting. It is that simple. Mitch McConnell has been talking about this specific topic. Shocker. That he says that states are not engaging in trying to suppress voters whatsoever. What if, like, do you believe this? Let's play this clip.
The turnout in the 2020 election was the highest since 1900. States are not engaging in trying to suppress voters whatsoever. This is clearly an effort by one party to rewrite the rules of our political system.
You know, this is what's so free market, don't want regulation, except for voting.
Right. We talk. Who was the person? Bobby Jindal. He was talking about his dad saying, "This is the greatest country in the world. You can go into a store and you have so many different cereals," or something like that. Like, this is the reductionist, Republican
Smirnoff kind of take on America.
Exactly. Right. So, but when it comes to opportunities to vote, somehow, we have to have a monopolistic nanny state. How about that? We use their own term against them and tells us what we can and cannot do. In Pennsylvania, you had to get an excuse, a note from your mommy if you were not able or interested in voting on election day during this, this arbitrary 13-hour period until we changed that law for 2020. And, as soon as it seems like it's expanding the electorate and increasing voter turnout, that's what's pissing off my Republican colleagues. And, so what we have to break that down to, and the same applies to the Electoral College and people on a bipartisan level saying we either have to abolish it or bypass it. My very first bill when I got into office was the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact bill. And that was brought up by Republicans initially. And if we can get past the Electoral College, that means that more people will have their votes counted, which means that it will be more proportional to the diversity of the electorate. And that's a powerful thing on a generational level. I think that's good in terms of geographic diversity, ethnic diversity, age diversity, and so forth. But we have to understand that the reason they're pushing up and the reason they're comfortable with this hypocrisy is they know that all they have is a dying demography, and that anyone who they believe is outside of that standard kind of profile is the enemy.
Good luck with that, Arun.
Yeah, good luck with that, because things aren't always sort of equal in the way that they work, and their ability to sort of throw these things and suppress, targeted demographics of Democratic voters are effective. And to counter them, you need to win elections in which you don't do that, because you can't run on that then. And so you end up in this really horrible, vicious circle. Sometimes, like when you look at something like campaign finance reform, you're tempted to say, you know what, let's just deregulate and have money go from everywhere. And at least that way, it's coming from everywhere. You're almost tempted here to be like, I wish Democrats were better at suppressing Republican votes so that until we ban it, there was a little parity, because, we're just saying that's wrong while it's happening. And it's not a good feeling. You're on the ropes just getting beat up.
Well, it doesn't, listen, Joe Biden won because he got more votes this elections than ever in history. But the margin in those swing states, as I've said on the show today and many times before, was smaller than that with Hillary Clinton. But the only reason he won was because the electorate was expanded, because there were more voters for both presidential candidates than ever in history. And so, that was Bernie Sanders' strategy, definitely in 2016. An aspect of that in 2020 was to expand the electorate. But you also have to have your base.
Rove strategy too, A lot of smart people. Yeah.
It's not rocket science. It's just, do you want to win? And that's ultimately the question. Rep Rab, Arun Chowdhury, two people who know politics well, understand winning very well. Always a pleasure having you on the show on Thursdays. You do. We've probably had more. Arun's had.
We lose a lot.
Rep Rab has won basically.
He's a winner.
He's a winner.
Make that guy senator.
Yeah, I like that idea. Maybe you should run for Senate.
You guys are killing me.
It's a spicy race. I think there's there's some debate over who's on the left in that Senate race. I feel like there's room for a leftist to come in. Just throwing that out there.
Primaries matter.
Primaries matter. Very important. All right, guys. Always a pleasure. Have a wonderful Thursday, and we'll see you next week. And to everybody else, let's do these shout outs. We've got JKR Dozer. It's JKR Dozer. Sending love. Thank you so much. And Jason AFC83 subscribed for 1 month at tier 1 yesterday. Thank you. And Midi Doctors gifted a month at tier 1. That's so sweet of you to Sad Hap 20 today. A Difficult Truth gave out a tier 1 tier 1 to community sub gift. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. And Pete from Oakland says, incredible and chilling opener as always. Thank you. P.S. When does the next round of books go out? Great question. Should be soon. The publisher distributes the books. If you guys don't know about our book club, we have this great book club that we launched in January, and we've partnered up with Verso Books and Haymarket Books. I think we have a few more that we're going to be partnering up with. I just finished up an interview. This was a book from a few weeks ago, but we had, you have to schedule with all the authors and everything. An amazing book on reparations and redeeming the promise of reparations. It's called Repair. It's by Catherine Franke. It was an incredible conversation. The book is such an easy read. It's really like 160 pages. I read it in an afternoon, or 150 pages. Read it in an afternoon. Great conversation. I definitely recommend you check it out. That'll be going up this week, that conversation. And then if you are part of the book club, you already know about Capital is Dead. Is This Something Worse? We had our interview with Mackenzie Wark go up this week. She's brilliant, really broke my mind and freaked me out about where we're going in terms of capital and the new form of capitalism, or is this something different? Definitely go check it out. The Nomiki Show Patreon account, patreon.com/The Nomiki Show. We have 3 levels, 1 book a month, 2 books a month, 4 books a month. You should be getting the book soon. I will find out. I'm also on the distribution list. So as soon as I get it, usually everybody else gets it, and I will give you that update. But if you want to know the calendar, we have put it up. So for the next few months, our calendar of books. It's exciting, very good selections. And sometimes you get early access to books too for the book club because of this relationship we have with Verso and Haymarket, 2 extraordinary publishers that we're grateful to work with. All right, everybody, let me see. Did I miss anything? Thanks to everyone on Twitch for getting our first level 1 hype train going. Some guy just says, hi, Nomiki, I smashed the like button. Love your show. Great content. Thank you, some guy. Everybody smash that like button. Share on social media. We're going to be shifting some stuff around the show soon. Not too much, just like a little bit here and there. Definitely want to get the word out. As you know, we have extraordinary guests, great deep conversations, all within an hour and a half, a few times a week. I think that's digestible. I like to listen to podcasts, briefly on my ride, on my walk, whatever. So if you can share your experience watching the show, please do. We got to get the word out. Thank you to Midi Docs and Mario for working those algorithms. Huge thank you to our YouTube moderators, Bob C, Choke in the Orb, and Chuck Diesel. And always thank you to Dorian Sapiens, A Difficult Truth, Nightbot, Our Means, and Nug Wrangler on Twitch for keeping the chat rooms troll free. We will see you tomorrow for Femme Friday. Same time, same place. And as always, stay in solidarity. Thanks for watching and listening to The Nomiki Show. But remember to click like and subscribe on YouTube, and please share on social media. If you're not already a patron, please join us for as low as $5 a month on patreon.com/The Nomiki Show for early and special content. That investment makes a huge difference. We are not corporate media raking in the dough. It's really you guys that are keeping us going. So please consider being a patron. And to our current patrons, thank you so much. We are incredibly grateful to you. We also now have swag. So check us out on thenomikishow.com to get your mugs, your totes, and your stickers.